Welcome to the most disliked show on YouTube.
Leave Benny alone!
I want to thank Security Camera very much for the use of this footage. Again, thank you, Security Camera. A great channel. Please subscribe to Security Camera, who's focusing on the Turpins, as am I. Let's roll it.
The childhood friend of the children who were rescued from a California house of horrors has recalled her short-lived friendship with the three eldest siblings. Ashley Vineyard, 25, lived across the street from David, 57, and Louise Turpin, 49, when the family was living in their Rio Vista home in Texas. The couple was arrested and charged with torture and child endangerment on Sunday after their 17-year-old daughter escaped through a window and called 911 saying her brothers and sisters were being chained up in the home. In an exclusive interview with DailyMail.com, Ashley, a local photographer, tells of the moment she befriended two of the girls and their brother when they were kids. I was about 10 years old when I met the Turpin kids. I was friends with Jennifer, Josh, and Jessica. We were friends for several months. We were all about the same age, Ashley said. The first time I noticed them, they were walking up and down the street, the three of them. Josh had a stick in his hand and was poking at rocks on the ground. The Turpins lived in a 2,300 square foot home on 36 acres from 1999 to 2010 before they relocated to Riverside County, California after the bank foreclosed on the house. They previously lived about 40 miles north in Fort Worth, Texas from around 1992 to 1999. Ashley said she went over and began talking to them and soon they started playing together. We lived out here in the country and I was excited to have a group of kids to play with. We mostly played in their front and backyard, we never played in the house. We played in the creek that runs by their house, catching frogs and minnows and throwing rocks, normal kids stuff. Running around just being crazy and having fun. She says the kids were well-mannered but very protective and refused to talk about their home life. They really didn't talk about their parents or family like a lot of other kids do. Every time I innocently asked them about their parents they would sort of shut down. I only met the parents a few times, the mother always dressed modestly, the father had an intimidating presence but quiet, he never said anything. David Turpin drove a white truck while Louise hauled the kids around in a 12-seater type of van, she says. I only went into their house on a couple of occasions, you had to enter through the back door. I remember there were animal cages and newspapers strewn about on the floor, piles with feces on it. They had dogs, cats and goats. Even though the house smelled of poop at the time I really didn't think anything about it, since we lived out in the country it was no big deal to have animals in your house. I never went into the kids' bedrooms to play, I only got as far as the dining room and kitchen area. Oddly, I remember not seeing any sign of food in the house or any dishes in the sink. Ashley's mother Shelley recalled the strange encounter she had with the Turpin kids that ultimately ended their friendship with her daughter. The Turpin kids rarely came over to our house to play. One day when they came over I asked them their names, a normal question. One of the girls said to me, "I can tell you our names, but if you listen I might be able to find out what our names are," and then the little sister said, "Don't say anything to the older one, Shelley says. At first I thought she was joking, but later realized she wasn't. It was at that point I thought something strange was going on over at the Turpin house. Shortly after Shelley asked the Turpin kids their names, Ashley said she went over to the Turpin's house and knocked on the door to see if they could play. According to Ashley, Louise Turpin answered the door and told her, "I'm sorry they can't come out and play today, they can't play with you anymore." Ashley says she was hurt by the rebuff, but continued to try to play with her new friends. "I knocked on the door a few more times but there was never an answer. But I could see a young baby in a playpen in the front window. Just the baby in the playpen, no one else was around. I never played with the Turpin kids after that day. I don't know if it was because my mother was asking them too many questions and the mother and father got nervous." After that incident, the kids allegedly stopped playing in the front yard and played in the backyard instead, so Ashley couldn't see them, but heard them. One day Ashley and her mother Shelley noticed a large double-wide trailer parked out in the back of the Turpin's yard. The family had moved out of their house and into the mobile home. Later Ashley and her mother realized that the house where Turpins had been living in for 4 years was so full of feces and other garbage and they had to move out of it and move into the trailer. The family lived in the new home for about 4 years, Shelley says. One day the family just moved out. We didn't realize it for several weeks until bill collectors were knocking on our door asking about the Turpins. After they moved out we went snooping over at their property. I opened the back door of the house and 2 dogs came charging out. The room smelled of feces and the dogs were eating dirty diapers for food. They were empty Vienna sausage cans strewn all over the house. They had a huge garbage dumpster at their house and we heard a baby kitten crying. We pulled the baby kitty from the dumpster and kept it. There were other whimpering sounds coming from their property, but we could never find where they came from. The dumpster smelled of death, who knows what was buried in it. Shelley said she went inside the double-wide and found 2 rooms with 6 sets of bunk beds like barracks. There were like makeshift mattresses on the bed and when you tried to lift them up they would fall apart. There was another room like a makeshift schoolroom. There were about 5 or 6 desks and old beat-up chalkboard leaning against the wall. The chalkboard was dusty and dirty and there was basic elementary words written on it. Ashley says she remembers seeing religious material on the floors, stuff like preparing for Armageddon. It looked like a cult house. It was kind of scary. I remember not seeing any toys or dolls at the house. Shortly before the family disappeared and moved out, Shelley says she heard that a neighbor once saw one of the Turpin daughters was walking down the road and offered to give her a ride. I guess she was running away. She asked the lady who picked her up several questions like, "How do you get a driver's license? How do you get a job?" The Turpin kid didn't know her birthday or didn't even know what was President of the United States. At the time, Ashley says she didn't realize what was going on in the home. "I was 10 years old, but now looking back at things, there were a lot of strange things going on. They didn't make a lot of noise for a family of 10+ people." Shelley said she saw the parrots out at the local Applebee's a few times without their kids. They were friendly enough but not overly friendly. Shelley added, "I never saw Louise pregnant, but when they moved in they had about 8 kids and by the time they left they added a few more. Every time we turned around we would see another toddler car seat in the van." After they lost the house to a foreclosure, the mortgage company came out to start cleaning up the property. "I was so scared when they picked up the trash. I was hoping they wouldn't find dead bodies. They found several dead animals in the house. It was a tense 8 years while they lived next to us. Billy Baldwin, 48, the current owner of the former Turpin house in Rio Vista, told DailyMail.com he bought the home after it was foreclosed on by the bank. The house was in really bad shape, so bad that realtors made you sign a hold harmless agreement before you could go in and look at the house, Baldwin said. The flooring in the bathroom was rotted out, the roof had blue tarps on it. It took the mortgage company several months to sell in as-is condition. Baldwin says they basically had to remodel the house from the ground up. We spent about $30,000 on it to get it livable. There was feces on the floor, a lot of old diapers around. The Turpins had to move out of the current house because it was so full of garbage. After they moved out, Baldwin said he found some old pictures in the house and it showed 2 beds with what looked like a rope hanging on the end of the bed. I don't know how any living person could treat their kids like that, and I think they should be punished to the fullest extent of the law.
Alright, this is my annual fundraising drive. Now, if you enjoy the content here, chip in $1. Just $1, that's all I ask. $1. You can give whatever you want, but please do $1. Is it fair? Is it fair that guys like Charlie Rose get money but not me? Let me quit this job.
Contribute on the About screen of the channel by clicking on the PayPal button. Please remember to subscribe and hit the dislike button at the bottom of the page.